off, we are going to need a piece of paper and a marker, a colored pencil, or some writing utensil. You're going to get your piece of paper and do a hot dog fold, okay, and open it up. Next step, you're going to do a hamburger fold, okay. Now you're going to take your hamburger fold and fold it into halves, just like this, and do the other side the same. Now, once you get your foldable, you will have 8 squares on the inside, and fold it up just like this. Alright. Now we're going to learn all of the properties. There are 5 properties. First off, we're going to start off with the commutative property. You're going to write commutative property and then put a plus and multiplication in parentheses, because the commutative property can be done with addition and multiplication. A way to remember the commutative property is by using flip-flops. So draw a flip-flop. Now, open up your inside flap once you have that written, just like this, and you're going to do the commutative property of addition and stick it right here. Write down addition and then this vocab word sentence. Changing the order of the addends doesn't change the sum. Alright, so now we're going to do an example. 8 plus 3 equals 3 plus 8. Because 8 plus 3 is 11, and 3 plus 8 is 11. Now we're going to do the commutative property of multiplication. First off, write multiplication on the top, and then write the definition. Changing the order of the factors doesn't change the product. Let's do an example of the commutative property of multiplication. 5 times 3 equals 3 times 5. Because 5 times 3 is 15, and 3 times 5 is 15. So it's equal to one another. All the numbers did was flip-flop, like we did with the picture in the front. Now we are going to learn about the associative property. So next, put the associative property on your outside flap. Write associative property plus and multiplication, and we're going to make an way for you to remember the associative property. You can either remember it by the S's. They look like parentheses because the associative property always uses parentheses, or you can refer it to as your friends you associate with. Alright, so once you get that written down, open up the flap, and we're going to do the associative property of addition. So put it right beside the multiplication one and write addition and the definition. Whichever way we group the numbers, the sum is the same. An example of the associative property addition is 3 plus 2 in parentheses plus 5 is equal to 3 outside of parentheses plus 2 plus 5. Because you do the thing in the parentheses first. 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 plus 5 is going to give you 10, and 2 plus 5 is 7, very good, plus 3, which is going to give you 10. So your answer comes out the same, but you just do parentheses like on the front, we remembered the associative property is with parentheses. Now we're going to do the associative property of multiplication. And you write multiplication here in the definition. Whichever way we group the factors, the product is the same. Multiplication is the same way. 3 times 2, put in parentheses, times 5 is equal to 3 times 2 times 5. 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is 30, and 2 times 5 is 10, times 3, which is equal to 30. So it's the same answer. Now open up your flaps again once you get that written. And now we're going to learn distributive property. It's with multiplication and addition again. So write distributive property. And the best way to remember distributive property is the game that we've all played, Angry Birds. So draw a bird and it hitting a pig. Alright, so there's our Angry Birds. Now on the inside, we're going to put distributive property of addition and write our vocab definition. The product of a number and a sum is equal to the sum of the individual product of the addends and the number. An example of the distributive property of addition is 5 times 3 plus 3. 5 plus 3 plus 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 5, because you always do the stuff in the parentheses first. 6 plus 5 is 11. Alright, now we're going to do multiplication. So, distributive property of multiplication, right here, and write this definition. Multiply a sum by multiplying each addend separately, and then add the products. So, it's just like what we did before, but 5 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 5 is, does anyone know? 45. Very good. Alright, we got 2 left. Now we are going to learn additive property. Additive property usually has a 1 in it. So I remember I as in 1. So write additive property, put in parentheses, plus, in multiplication, 1 equals 1 for our picture. Open it up. For additive property of addition, we're going to write the definition. The sum of any number and 0 is the original number. Alright, so an example of that is 11 plus 0 is still going to equal 11. Alright, now we're going to do multiplication. Additive property of multiplication, and you're going to write the definition. The product of any number and 1 is equal to the original number. And if we look down below, it says it keeps its identity. Both of these two keep their identity. So it is like 77 times 1 is still going to equal 77. Alright, we have 1 left. So we're going to flip our chart over. And we're going to do our very last one, which is the property of 0. And this property is only multiplication and not addition. And it always has a 0 in the equation. This only applies to multiplication. Any number times 0 is 0. So 89 times 0 is going to equal 0. And it always has a 0 in our equation. Now below, just write your name on this line, and you are finished. You learned all the products. You learned all the properties that there are.